everyone. We have matching gizmos.
Matching giz.
Is that
Hers still works. Mine's all beaten up.
Yeah, mine doesn't travel with me. Yours definitely does.
Mine's my travel gizmo. My travel gizmo takes a beating. Here,
How
let's
are
let's
you?
make more of them. No, I'm just
No. We know the rules, right? How you doing, Zach?
I'm doing really good, thank you.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, as you all know, I'll ask him a few questions, and then we'll throw it to you. If you have a question, come on over to the mic. Start lighting up now. Don't be shy. I promise we only have Gizmo. We don't have the Gremlins here right now. Maybe later, if we're lucky. But please don't be shy. I know a lot of times you think you want to ask a question and you're nervous about it, and then when you leave, you regret having not asked it. So don't let that happen. So let's get right to it. I want to ask you, we're going to get this out of the way.
Sure.
I know you've said that you do not know yet if you will be starring in Gremlins 3, which we've already got confirmation it's in development.
It's more than in development. It's in active pre-production.
Even better.
Yeah.
So you don't know if you're going to be in it yet.
No.
But if you were to be in it.
Oh, so we're getting hypothetical
Yeah,
now?
yeah.
Okay, sure.
Hypothetical.
Yes.
Besides Phoebe, who else would you love to see in the cast?
Well, you know, the difficult thing about Gremlins is that the franchise has been around for a long time, and there hasn't been a new installment in, 36 years. So, unfortunately, a lot of the key people that we would want to be back are no longer with us. I mean, Hoyt Axton passed away in 1999. Polly Holliday, just believe, passed away this year. And oddly, there's probably more to talk about in the Gremlins universe this year than like maybe ever. What with the I don't know if you guys heard about the Gremlins rough cut, the Gremlins 1 rough cut. If you haven't, we can talk about that a little bit because that's really wild. The super short version of the Gremlins rough cut is they took Joe Dante's original rough assembly, which was everything that we shot back in 1983. And when a director assembles a film, he takes everything that they've shot and does, like I said, what's called a rough assembly. And then he trims it down and gets rid of stuff where he's like, we don't really need this. And, and he's shortening it, not because he doesn't like what he shot, but because the studio wants it to be under 2 hours. They want it to be under 2 hours because it's more showings per day and then therefore more money. Which is, like what did they say in Jerry Maguire? It's not show friends, it's show business. So, if you can have 5 screenings a day instead of 4 screenings a day, that's just an extra screening a day. Over time, it adds up, and you just make a lot more money. So he cut a lot of stuff out of the first Gremlins, some of which I didn't even remember shooting, like just because it's been 43 years. He gave it to a guy named Ian Grant over at the Gremlins Museum in Seattle, Washington. There is, yes, for those of you who don't know, a Gremlins Museum in Seattle, Washington that has the world's largest collection of Gremlins memorabilia. And Ian Grant put together a 2-hour and 39-minute watchable cut with about 45 minutes of new stuff, that some of which is from the deleted scenes. So if you have the DVD, you've seen it. But there's a good half hour of stuff that nobody's seen. And it's really, it probably doesn't surprise you that I've seen the rough cut. But there were a few things there that legitimately shocked me. Stuff I didn't remember, shooting. And something about the way that it's cut now and the fact that it's this big, it is long, there's no question about it. You kind of have to be a hardcore Gremlins fan. But Kingston Falls just becomes like a real place. There's a scene, a very kind of trivial scene where I'm helping my dad put his suitcases in because he's on his way to go to that convention, right, that Spielberg drives through, and Robbie the Robot's in the background, the time machine disappears and all those cute little things that are in the movie. But and we go outside, and I don't remember shooting this, but it's snowing, like fake snow, but it looks very real. It is snowing, and you're like, oh, Kingston Falls has like weather. It's not like a set, because it kind of looks like a set in the movie. And there are characters that have way more stuff in them, like Edward Andrews, who runs the bank, and is always kind of sucking up to Mrs. Deagle. He has like this whole thing about how he's obsessed with punctuality, and he's always checking his watch and clocks everywhere. And Judge Reinhold his character Gerald has like 2 or 3 more scenes where he kind of creepily comes on to Phoebe, and Polly Holiday as Mrs. Deagle. The Deagle character really gets fleshed out. She probably gets about 10 or 15 minutes more. And I got to tell you, at the time I was 19, so I was very inexperienced. And watching her and working with her, I could tell, like, wow, this woman is a really superb, trained actress. And, of course, she would not talk to me ever on the set because she didn't want our actual personal relationship to interfere with her having to despise me as the bank teller character. But there's a couple of scenes in there where she just is masterclass. And I'm just going to go out on a limb and say, it's very unlikely that she would have gotten nominated for any acting award because it's a rubber monster movie. Let's be honest, But Sigourney Weaver got a Best Actress nomination for Aliens, so you never know, only 2 years later. She's so great in this movie. I wish she had lived to see the full flower of her performance because she's just spectacular. She really kind of walks away performance-wise with the movie. Everything about her character is so specific. This great scene with her with all of her cats. And she's named every one of her cats after a particular form of world currency. So she's going like, come here, drachma. Sit down there, dollar bill. Kopeck, you sit down. Come here, shekel. And everything it's all based on money. It's so great. And she just does it so effortlessly and so comedically, but she plays it completely straight. It's just fantastic. So there's tons of stuff. So, of course, obviously, the next question someone would say is, where can we see this? Then where can we see, as an audience member, see this thing? And it kind of, the guy Ian Grant showed it at a, sort of like a secret screening, and it leaked. Somebody from the Hollywood Reporter was there. And so there was a big article about it in the Hollywood Reporter, and people, all sorts of horror people had been invited. There were like 40 people there, but like people like Zach Kreger from Weapons and the guys who actually, from Final Destination Bloodlines, who are helping Chris Columbus write Gremlins 3 right now, or actually I think they finished their part in it. They were there, really hardcore, writers and directors who were Gremlins fans were there. And it leaked and got a Hollywood Reporter story, and it blew up so big that Ian told me he's had like between 50 and 60 offers all around the world to show the rough cut. So we're trying to see if we can get Warner Brothers and Amblin interested, to kind of go around the country and talk about and show the Gremlins rough cut before Gremlins 3 comes out, sort of as like an hors d'oeuvre before you get the main course. So there's just a lot going on now, and it's a really probably more exciting time to be a Gremlins fan now than any time except when the movie first came out in '84.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch that. Maybe there's clips of it on YouTube. Maybe.
Well, like I said, the deleted scenes. There's a few scenes from the movie. Like in the deleted scenes, there's this scene where we find out what happens to Gerald. He locks himself in the vault to escape from the Gremlins and kind of loses his mind, and starts ranting and raving and babbling because he's been spooked so badly by being attacked by 40 or 50 murderous lizard creatures, as most people might be a little shaken up if that actually happened to you. Your entire town destroyed and people murdered in front of you by vicious creatures. So there's like some of the deleted scenes are put back in, but like I said, there's all sorts of stuff that I didn't remember shooting, especially at the opening. We finally get an explanation for how Barney, my dog, destroys Mrs. Deagle's Bavarian snowman. which when we first see her, she's walking up with the snowman head in her hands, and she's all furious about it. So we get to see that, and yeah, we get to see my character's love for all animals, cats, including just Barney. There's a scene where I rescue one of Mrs. Deagle's cats and get absolutely no thanks for doing it from Mrs. Deagle. Just door slammed in my face because she's a terrible person. So yeah, so Billy gets really my character gets fleshed out a lot too, and yeah, there's a bank scene with Mrs. Deagle where I actually confront her and stand up for myself rather than just sort of being Billy the doormat. And I saw that scene and I was like, that might have changed my career if we kept that scene in there. So you never know, but I think people be really if you're a casual Gremlins fan, I'm not sure if it's something for you, but if you're a hardcore Gremlins fan, I think you'd probably be pretty obsessed by it with it.
Is it true that the original script was much darker and gorier? Like Barney gets decapitated or something?
My mother gets decapitated and her
is.
head rolls down the stairs. The Gremlins just kill her when she goes up into the attic and discovers them. And Mr. Spielberg read that part in the script and was like, yeah, that's not going to happen. And that's not going to happen. And then, of course, Gizmo famously died halfway through the original script, and Mr. Spielberg looked at that and went, yeah, that's probably not going to happen either. No, what actually happened was apparently Mr. Spielberg turned to Chris Columbus and said, you've done such a nice job setting up this adorable thing. Why don't you keep him around as like a kind of a sidekick vying for the lead character's attention with the family dog, and there is a couple of scenes put back in the rough cut where you see a little tension between Barney and Gizmo because Gizmo is now getting sort of the favored place on the bed where Barney used to be, and Barney's now at the foot of the bed kind of looking at like, what is this thing? And by the way, Barney also, I should call him by his actor name, Mushroom was the name of the dog, the actual name of the dog. Already had given one of the great canine performances in movie history. Now it's pretty clear he gives the greatest canine performance in history. Every frame, he is just phenomenal. And God bless him. He probably passed away somewhere around 1990, 91. I miss that dog every day I'm alive. And every time I see a screening of it, it just breaks my heart because one of the first things that we ever did on Gremlins before we even did rehearsals was I got to LA a couple of weeks early so I could do dog bonding sessions. Because and that's fairly typical, I think, when you're going to have an animal that needs to really be believably close to an actor and they don't know each other. So, like, I would drive over when I first got there, the first day I drove over to Burbank Studios, it was purely to, pop in and say hi to Joe Dante and Mike Fennell, the producer, for like 10 minutes, and then an hour of dog bonding class, which was basically me throwing a ball and then giving Barney a treat, and then throwing the ball again and giving him another treat, and then giving him kisses, and then him kissing me, and then me throwing the ball and giving him a treat. And it just went on for an hour. And I probably did it 5 times a week for 2 weeks. And by the time we started shooting, the second Barney saw me, he just starts, like Pavlov's dog, just starts salivating violently because he knew I was the treat guy. It's like, and it's like, yeah, that's right, me. I had a bag of little satchel of treats, and I'd throw the ball and then come back, I'd give him a treat. It's, behavioral conditioning, and it works. It works, but man, I love that dog. I can still close my eyes and can smell his like yumminess in his paws and everything. He was such a good boy. Such a good boy.
That sounds like the best job ever.
Yeah, it was great. If you like animals, it was a fantastic job.
So you're a horror fan, right?
Sure.
Do you have a franchise that you would love to star in?
Oh my gosh. I mean, where to even begin? I'd love to do a really good zombie movie like Night of the Living Dead, like a that kind of thing. Zombies are always fun. I mean, my God, who wouldn't want to be in a Thing movie, right? The Thing. But you can't really, the problem is you can't really franchise The Thing because that movie is so perfect. It's kind of a standalone one. They tried to do the thing with the Norwegian one, right? Yeah. And it was fine, but it's not John Carpenter. Only John Carpenter is John Carpenter. You got to have Kurt Russell. Yeah. Kurt Russell channeling kind of like Jim Morrison. If Jim Morrison was at an Arctic place, he'd be R.J. McCready, right? Just drinking all the time, drinking whiskey. Hell yeah. First, you know he's sort of Jim Morrison-y because the first thing you see him do is destroy the computer, right, with the whiskey glass. You're like, screw that. Yeah, and he's talking all sort of Clint Eastwood-y. A cross between like Clint Eastwood and Jim Morrison in the Arctic. It's one of my favorite characters ever. I can recite chapter and verse from that.
So
sometimes I'll turn to my wife sometimes and I'll go, I thought you'd say that. That's why we're doing you last. Squeak! She's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, come on, baby, it's the thing. Yeah.
So the Gremlins film, I feel like, kind of straddles that line, that perfect sweet spot between family-friendly film and dark horror adjacent. What was the vibe like on set? Did it feel more jovial and like it was gonna be a family-friendly film, or did it kind of lean into the darkness a little bit?
Well, first of all, remember, like I've already said, I was 19 years old. I didn't really know all that much about what I was doing. A lot of it was still very, very new to me. So I was trying to kind of figure out the tone as we went along. And, I just finished writing a book called Being Billy, The Making of Gremlins, where I just take March 1983 to July 1st, 1984, and just talk about that 18-month or 17-month journey from getting cast to doing the movie, to waiting for the movie to come out, to the movie coming out and eventually being a big hit. And, there's a section in it where I talk about the first time I saw the film. And the first time that Phoebe and I first saw the film was we were both out in California for the screening at the Chinese Theater on Hollywood Boulevard. And in a very active, real kindness and consideration, which is not unusual because Joe Dante and Mike Fennell, the producer, the two of them were so great to Phoebe and myself. They really treated us with so much respect, considering we were just a bunch of, couple of knucklehead 19-year-olds. They really treated us really very seriously and like professionals and adults and everything like that. They said, if you want to see the movie before you see it in the theater with the audience so you kind of know what to expect, we'd be happy to set up a screening for you. She and I were both like, yeah, sure, we're dying to see it. So we went to see it on the Warner Brothers lot in this tiny screening room. The screening room literally had maybe 15 seats. It was like 3 seats here, 3 seats here, and 3 or 4 rows of them. And a very small screen, kind of like those screens you used to go to in the multiplexes. We're like, oh God, we got Theater 9, and Theater 9 was just basically like what a big screen TV is now. You're like, oh, great. So we went into that screening room, and Joe and Mike deliberately sat in the front so that they didn't have to sit behind us and watch our expressions. They wanted to I don't know why they wanted to watch the movie again. They'd probably seen it a billion times editing it. So Phoebe and I sat there and we watched the movie. And as the movie played, I was thinking to myself, what the heck have I gotten myself into? Because it was not at all, in my mind, what I envisioned. I envisioned it to be kind of like what eventually Aliens was. I expect when I was shooting it, because I'm doing a lot of running and I'm cutting the head off of with the sword, and gremlins are chasing me and I'm blowing up movie theaters and the Universal lot, and massive explosion that shattered windows a mile away in Universal City. People came to work on a Monday morning and they just broken glass and wind blowing their papers everywhere. People have no idea how big that explosion was. It looks kind of okay in the movie, but in real life, it was unbelievable. If you've never been around an explosion, it's like there's a shock wave that comes and hits you in a blast of heat. I thought my eyebrows had been singed off. Anyway, it's crazy. So I thought it was going to have like Brad Fidel Terminator music. You know, it was going to be like dum 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 bum 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 bum. I thought it was going to be like suspenseful. You know, and the first time I'm watching it, I'm hearing, you know, I expect someone to come out with a top hat and a cane, you know, or like at some carnival going, it's the greatest show on earth, you know, and I'm like, what is the carnival? What is happening here? It was like I was in a fun house or something. It was not at all what I expected. It was, you know, and if you know anything about Joe Dante's work, especially afterwards, it's like, it's super cartoony because Joe Dante's obsessed with cartoons. I didn't realize how obsessed Joe was, how obsessed he was with cartoons until he invited me over to his house after Gremlins 2. He's like, come on over and I'll show you a really cool picture. I said, oh, yeah, what are you going to show me? He goes, you ever see Colossus, the Forbin Project? I'm like, no, I don't think so. He goes, yeah, come over and we'll have some food and we'll order some Chinese and we'll show you Colossus, the Forbin Project and we'll hang out. I said, oh, that's great. So I went over there and he showed me a Bugs Bunny cartoon before the movie at his house, like an old drive-in. It was a great Bugs Bunny cartoon too. And I said, wow, I can't believe you have original Bugs Bunny cartoons. And he showed me his library. He has like 300 35 millimeter original Looney Tune cartoons at his house. I'm like, you have to be joking me. So I should have known, I didn't know, but I should have known that it was going to turn out that way. So this is a true story. So when it was over, the lights came up. And Phoebe and I looked at each other with kind of these kind of smiles, you know, like, well, that sure was something. And they turned around, they're like, so what do you think? You know, they're all super excited about it. I'm like, Phoebe, what do you think? She's like, it's, well, Zach, you go first. I'm like, no, you go first. I'm like, finally, I swear to God, I had to say this. I had to say, can you guys give us a second? Phoebe and I just want to consult. So we walked out of the screening room. I'll never forget this. There was this little kind of door that led to the outside to like a spiral staircase that went down to the street. So you're like outside this outdoors, but on a little, like just a little kind of alcove or a balcony. So I came outside and she goes, what do you think? I go, I don't know. Does it suck? She goes, I have no idea. It's so weird. I know it's like a giant, we're like stuck in this cartoon. She goes, the bar scene, what was that? What was the thing with the hand puppet? Like mocking the thing for the, what was happening? I'm like, I have no idea. She goes, are we in trouble? I go, I have no idea. I said, I've never seen anything like it. She goes, neither have I. She goes, so what do we do? I go, I don't know. I think we just lie and tell them we loved it. She goes, okay, good. So we go back in. We walk back in. They go, so? We're like, it's just the shock of the new, guys. It's awesome. It's just, I've never seen anything like it. Oh, it's so funny. Gizmo is so cute. We go on and on. We're talking this, that, and the other thing. And literally, I think Phoebe and I were both staying at the same hotel, so they gave us, a car, the same car to take us back. And it was like a funeral ride. Because we had, we saw it with no audience. It's just the two filmmakers, are her and myself. And when you're 19, all I'm looking at is, the first time you see the movie, all I'm looking at is, oh my God, do I suck? Am I okay? Did I blow that line? Oh my God, am I all right? Oh my God, my chin looks weird there. Oh no, it's okay. It's okay. So you're just watching yourself to make sure you just didn't mess everything up. Because do you know how much I had riding on this movie being like good? If this movie was a bomb, I'm like 19 and done. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm done, donezo. So it was just like a funeral riding back. And then we went, we have to go to the Chinese theater the next day. And we're coming out. This is all so new to me. Come out of the limo, and there's a red carpet. People are going, poop, pap, Zach, Phoebe, Zach, turn this way, Zach, flip around, Zach. People shout, barking at you, flash bulbs going up. You can't see what's happening. People that you've never met, they know your names, sign this thing. You've got pens thrust at you. You're like, what is it? Okay, this and that. You walk in, you can't see what you're doing. You walk into the theater, you get taken down to your little roped off section, right? They've roped it off. They have little things. It says has your name on the seat where you're supposed to sit. You sit down and lights go up and they start showing the movie, and Phoebe's, I can just give you an idea of like how burnt into your brain it is. I'm sitting here, Phoebe's a row ahead of me, one seat over, so she can turn her neck and look at me and say things. Why she didn't sit next to me, I don't know. Whatever. She probably was just like, I can't. We're so nervous. Lights go down, and the Warner Brothers, shield comes up. Everyone starts cheering. This theater's 1,800 people, completely sold out. And as the movie starts playing, Ahoy Daxton, and he buys it from the thing, and the Rockin' Ricky Rialto with the Raiders thing. Everyone's laughing at that. Mrs. Deagle, every joke she makes. Hey, Merry Christmas, Mrs. Deagle. What's so good about it? The theater is cracking up. We're like, it's actually starting to play. Like, it's really starting to play. Then we get to the scene with the box and opens it up, and Gizmo, comes up with his little wet nose and his ears all trembly and everything like that. The entire theater goes, oh, especially all the ladies. All the ladies like, oh my God, look at him. You can hear like this, and him start going like this. Phoebe turns around and looks at me, and she's like this. She's like, I don't know. And we get to the scene with Frances Lee McCain. She's stabbing the gremlin and this and that. She pushes the gremlin in the microwave. Spoiler, we push a gremlin in the microwave. Closes the door, and it goes, and the thing explodes, and the whole theater goes, oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! People were screaming. It was so loud. 1,800 people. Everyone's like verbally saying something. That the ding joke, where like the gremlin's ready, it's like ding after the microphone. I never heard the ding until like the 4th or 5th screening I went to, because everyone's shouting stuff, and it goes, and so that scene is over, and she grabs one knife, and then she grabs another knife, right, thing, and the audience is going bananas, and Phoebe turns around to me and she goes, well, I guess we're in one of the big hits of the summer, and I was like, who knew? And you pretty much knew from that kitchen scene that it was just going to be a massive thing, because the audience was with us every single second of the way, all the way through to the end, And then it was like, you never know, Hoyt, there just might be a gremlin under your bed, or whatever the last line is like that. And then it goes, and everyone starts applauding and this and that, and we're like, walk out. Everyone's like, Zach, poof, pap, 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 out to the thing. I'm like, get me back to the hotel. I'm losing my mind. It was, hopefully get an idea how crazy it was to just go from being this neophyte, unknown, completely unknown actor to just being thrust into this whirlwind. It was just crazy.
And the film is definitely being passed down generation to generation.
Yeah, people always say, like, did you think it was going to be a hit? I was like, I definitely thought it was going to be a hit because it's Spielberg, right after E.T. Most people don't realize Gremlins is the first thing ever done by Amblin Entertainment. The first project for Amblin ever. And you can kind of tell that because here's a little Easter egg for you. Go back and look at the Gremlins poster, right, with my hands holding the box. Look at my jeans. Look at the button on my jeans. Has the Amblin logo on the button on the jeans on the poster. It's very small. You look at it. It's little Elliot with the E.T. in the front of the bike flying on the thing. So next time you look at the Gremlins poster, check out the button on the jeans. You'll see the Amblin logo, and that was Spielberg's way of going stamp. Put my stamp on it.
That was actually going to be one of the things I was going to ask you about, the Easter eggs, because the film is filled with them, but that's one that I don't think we've noticed before. So
yeah, I've been pointing it out to people today when they come by the table with like the poster and stuff, and I've been signing it, and I show it to them, and they're like, "What? That's freaking awesome, dude!" So they love it.
Does anybody have a question for Zach? Come on over. Come on.
I pretty much just said everything there is to say about it. Yes, sir.
Hi, Zach. I'm Sean.
Hey, Sean.
First of all, I get that story about Joe Dante and the cartoons because Gremlins has forever linked our Mr. Sun into my brain whenever. It's shown in this film. 1984 is just stacked with films.
Sure.
Right? Like you've got Temple of Doom, Gremlins, Ghostbusters. Am I wrong in thinking that 1984 is a massive transition for film? What's just so special about that year, and has there ever been a year since in your mind, since 84? I mean, you got Splash, you've got Karate Kid, just on and on.
You're going to have people who pick their favorite year of what has the movies, what has great movies. In the 90s, there's a few years that has some amazing movies, where you have, in the same year, you have like Seven and a bunch of other great movies. But yeah, 84 was a weird summer because, you first you kick off with the Police Academy movies. That's where the Gremlins teaser showed. There were some other movies that don't really survive as well that I loved, like Against All Odds is one of my favorite Jeff Bridges movie. I love that movie. And then you have Temple of Doom. You've got Purple Rain, don't forget, that came out in July. Also, Red Dawn, the first PG-13 movie ever. But thanks to Gremlins creating the PG-13 thing because of the famous microwave scene. And Beverly Hills Cop is another 84 movie. There are a lot of great movies in 84. Never-Ending Story is 1984. Last Starfighter is 1984. You got there you go. You got a lot of cool movies coming out all at once, and Ghostbusters and Gremlins on the same day, June 8th. So you went to the multiplex, you had all sorts of choices. If Ghostbusters was sold out, you had Gremlins. If Gremlins was sold out, you had Ghostbusters or whatever, or Police Academy or Splash, or all of those movies. This new movie, Obsession, that came out, I saw did one of the very, very rare things, which is it stayed at the same number of theaters and increased its box office. And a little picture named Gremlins did that too. We opened in a certain number of theaters on June 8th, and then for the June 15th weekend, we went up 15%. Because Gremlins was really a sleeper. It wasn't really on a lot of people's radars. And in fact, Warner Brothers basically, one of the crazy things about Gremlins is I'm still finding out stuff about the movie like 40 years later that I just didn't know. And one of the things that I put in the book is the fact that Warner Brothers really was not high on Gremlins at all. They just thought it was they didn't get it. And when they saw the rushes of Phoebe Cates' dead dad in the Santa Claus in the Chimney thing, they were just like, this is weird and sick and gross and never going to fly. And they apparently, according to Mike Fennell, the producer, they did one screening in Sacramento, and the audience response was just absolutely psychotic. And so they did another one down in San Diego. Obviously, it was going to be sort of California-based because Warner Brothers is in Los Angeles or Burbank. And they started getting these test scores that were so off the charts that they had to suddenly go, oh my God, maybe we have something here. And so there was literally, he said, March 1st, remember the movie's coming out June 8th, there was no merchandising in place whatsoever. And by April 15th, in 6 weeks, they had suddenly, like there was a mad rush, and you had, the Hardee's records, the 5 records that tell the story, and the Gremlin storybook, and the lunchbox, and the this, and the trading cards, and the that, and the Gizmos, and the peanut butter Gremlin cereal that was terrible. And all of this stuff, it all just came exploding out because of these 2 screenings. They thought it was dead in the water. They thought they had nothing, and then suddenly they just put all of this marketing and stuff into a teaser trailer. So Gremlins was almost the movie that just was almost really a throwaway. Yes, sir.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty good, thank
Good.
you. My question is, how do you feel about all these 80s movies being brought back?
Well, I'm in a very fortunate position because if they were remaking Gremlins, I would probably be pretty annoyed because, you do feel a certain, whether it's correct or not, you feel a certain amount of ownership towards the original one. But fortunately for me, Warner Brothers does not own the Gremlins franchise. Mr. Spielberg owns it. Amblin owns it. And I believe Mr. Columbus also has some kind of ownership ability. At least he has the ability to say no to a reboot. And he has said, and his involvement in Gremlins 3 certainly solidifies this. He said as long as he is alive, there will never be a Gremlins reboot. He just won't, he'll just say no. And he has the right to say no. And Mr. Spielberg is not particularly that amenable to remakes and reboots. Famously, he didn't see Jaws 2 for something like 20 years. After he did the first Jaws, they asked him to do Jaws 2, and he said, guys, we blew up the shark at the end. That's how the movie ends. We blew up the shark at the end. They're like, but there's another shark. He's like, there is not another 26-foot white shark like the one in Jaws. That's the whole point of Jaws. It's like a 1 in a million shark that's terrorizing the community. You don't just go, well, there are two 26. You know. So he's not. If you notice, he doesn't really do that many sequels, except for Indiana Jones, and that's because Indiana Jones really lends itself to sequel because he's a hero, and he's a hero who has multiple adventures, and he's an archaeologist, so he can search for this relic and he can search for that relic, and quite honestly, it's Lucas who's pushing the sequels, and Spielberg who loves the character and loves directing them. But you see, even he didn't direct the fifth one. He gave it to James Mangold. So I don't think there'll ever be, as long as everyone involved in the franchise is alive, you're probably not going to see any kind of Gremlins reboot. So, but I sympathize for the people who, the new RoboCop and the new this and the new that, and everything's being rebooted. Just heard they're going to reboot Escape from New York. Zack Snyder's going to redo Escape from New York, and we'll see. That's all you can do is you have to hope it'll be good. His Dawn of the Dead was pretty good.
Yeah.
I kind of enjoyed that, and you would have been like, remake Dawn of the Dead, how dare you, but it was still pretty good. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I was wondering if you had any stories of like any behind the scenes, like moments from set on Gremlins.
Have I got
that stood
stories
out.
for you?
Yeah, favorite ones or
My
something.
stories have got stories. I mean, yeah, sure. Let's see. Yeah, so here's a good one. Speaking of Mr. Spielberg, Mr. Spielberg was not really on the set all that much because he was making Temple of Doom, and so he was really quite literally on the other side of the world in Sri Lanka where they were shooting the majority of the movie on location. But he did, in fact, eventually come back. And he came back with something like maybe 3 weeks left shooting. So using my chronology, he probably came back maybe mid-July, 1983, when I think they finished just a smidgen before we did. We finished on August the 3rd, 1983. So he had his Amblin office on the Warner Brothers lot before he eventually moved it over to Universal. And he had an office there, and in the office he had a lot of, remember it's 1983, stand-up arcade video games. Now, I'm 19 years old, and I am obsessed with stand-up arcade video games, primarily Pac-Man, Galaga, Defender, Space Invaders, Missile Command. If you grew up during that time, you loved those games. So I would go over to, and just before we started, Mike Fennell, the producer, said to me, he goes, by the way, Steven's office is right over there, and he said, tell the guys on Gremlins if they want to come and play my video games over in my office, you're more than welcome to. So I was like, what? Spielberg's got video games? Get out of here. So I would walk in and I would say hi to his assistant, to the woman who was at the head of his office. I'd be like, hey, can I look at this? She's like, yes, you don't have to keep asking. And I would go to the back, and he had 4 video games. He had Missile Command. He had a Formula One game called Pole Position. He had a Centipede ripoff called Millipede that was supposed to be more difficult. And then he had a really obscure one called Food Fight, where you're a chef and you're like throwing pies at another chef coming towards you in order to get to the other side of the screen. So I have so many stories connected with these video games, but I'll tell you my favorite. I'll tell you my favorite one. So I'm going over there and I'm playing a bunch of games, stuff like that. I'm just really enjoying myself. And one day there is a breakdown on the set. I think the dog stepped on Gizmo's ear and ripped it out of its socket. And so Chris Wayless, who designed Gizmo, would come over, and he'd always do the same thing. Whenever there's a big problem, he'd come over, and Joe Dante. The greatest thing about Joe Dante as a director is I did 2 movies with him, was with him for 9 months, never once saw him lose his temper in any way, shape, or form. He knew it was going to be difficult. He knew the technology was going to be a pain in the butt. He just knew there were going to be problems, and that was his expectation. So when they happened, he just basically, literally just shrugged. So the dog would step on the ear and rip it out. He'd go, oh, boy, oh, that's a problem. Hey, Wayless. He's like, yes, Joe. And Wayless would come over and go, oh, dear. Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Oh, that's the ear. Hey, Dave, what do you think? You think? Yeah, well, he took the cable there, and the cable snapped, and that little bindle there came out right there. And so, Wayless, we got to, how long is it going to be? Just give me an estimate. I don't care if it's 2 hours or 4 hours right now. Oh, dear. 6 hours? So we're sitting here, I'm 19. I'm like, 6-hour delay. It's like 11 a.m. We might not even get another shot for this day. All right, I'm over to Spielberg's office. So go over to Spielberg's office. And as I'm walking over there, I feel a tiny presence behind me. And I turn around, and 11-year-old Corey Feldman is following me. Hey, where are you going? I go, I'm going to Spielberg's office. Why? What's there? Video games, I want to come. So he follows me, and we start playing Food Fight because it's a very, very simple game with a simple joystick. He's not going to play the Formula One game. The kid's 11. He's like this big. So I suddenly discover after a couple of minutes that I can beat him every single time by doing this simple maneuver. So like the terrible older brother that I wanted to be, I start beating Corey 10, 20, 30 times in a row, like the sadistic older brother. He's like, I can't believe you beat me all the time, man. I'm like, yeah, just come on. No, you'll get me this time. And then I would beat him again, and he would have this meltdown. I know it sounds terrible, but it was so funny. He would kick the machine, and he would have this terrible, he would get so frustrated, and it was the funniest thing you'd ever seen in your life. He'd start cursing this blue streak, and he's like this big. So finally, I let him win a couple of times because he's not going to beat. I'm 19, he's 11. That's like a gigantic gap. So I let him win, and he's like, and so he won the first time. He's like, I won? I was like, you won. He's like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, baby. And he's walking around Spielberg's office, and he's freaking out, and it was that. Now I'm like practically crying with laughter. So I let him win again, and then I beat him 50 more times in a row. And so we had this rivalry that started, and we would go there so often. Eventually, it got so bad that the producers moved the Food Fight machine to the set so that they didn't have to keep going and wrangling us back from his office back and forth. And I would do the same pattern all the time. I'd beat him 50 times. I'd let him win two times so he'd be happy. And then I'd crush him another 40 times, stuff like that. Because I just figured out this one thing. It's down and to the left, and you would just beat him every single time. So we were at a convention about 3 years ago. I'm, at that time, 59 years old, and he's 52 or 51, something like that. So he's got a kid, everything like that. We're adult men. And he goes, hey, man, good to see you. How you been, brother? I'm like, pretty good. He's like, good, man. I'm over there, if you want to come over, just say hi, man. I'm like, all right, I will. And he walks away, and I go, hey, Corey. And he goes, yeah. And I go, I kicked your ass at Food Fight, didn't I? And he goes, God damn you, Galligan, I hate you. I beat you a few times too, man. I was like, I beat you the majority of the time. He's like, can't believe you're bringing that up now, man. Some wounds never heal.
I have to say that is an excellent Corey Feldman impersonation.
Well, I've known him since he was 11. So.
Spot on. Next question.
Hello. I already know your answer now about Joe Dante. You enjoyed working with him. I've noticed Dick Miller's in a lot of his movies. You enjoyed working with Dick Miller, too?
Oh, my God. Dick was one of the greatest guys ever. I mean, really. First of all, one of the things about Dick is he's extremely underrated as an actor. Because he's he and Bruce Campbell are the only two actors I've ever worked with who were literally like cartoon characters come to life. The two of their chins put together is just so spectacular. And Dick was, God bless him. I mean, it's so painful even to say that he's not around because, I mean, he had a very good life. He lived to something like 89 or something like that. He almost hit 90. For years, I've tried to figure out exactly what Dick had that was so great. And I finally was really forced. I was like, I got to come up with a term for him because I did an interview for the great movie the documentary they did about his life called That Guy, Dick Miller. If you've never seen it, it's a fabulous documentary about him. But the term I came up with was that Dick had retro swagger. He had 1940s, yeah, that's right, I was in World War II and kicked some serious ass swagger. He was like a tough guy from Brooklyn, but he just kind of carried it and owned it, but was like also a sweetheart, you know? And he just had the greatest face, like one of the great, character actor faces ever, and he was such a sweetheart, as was his wife, Lainey, who I adore. And probably the greatest compliment I ever got from Dick was after the movie was over. He came up to me. This story is so unbelievable. It's hard for me to believe that it happened because it's just so unlikely coming from Dick. He comes up to me and he goes, hey, Zach. And I go, yeah? He goes, this is going to be kind of a weird question, but... are you single? And I go, yeah. Why? He goes, so I got this daughter. Her name's Barbie. She's a good kid, Zach. I tell you, she's a good kid. A little rough around the edges. Wonder where she got that from. And, if you're single, maybe, you seem like such a nice kid. Maybe you take her out and just to show her a nice time out on the town, something like that. I'm like, that is so sweet of you, Dick. Unfortunately, I live in New York, and I don't drive. But Barbie sounds like a wonderful person, and, maybe if I'm back in California, I'll do it. And I thought to myself, and I walked away, because remember, when you're young, you just don't really understand how the world works and stuff like that. But in retrospect, the fact that he was willing to set me up with his daughter was like such an incredibly sweet compliment. Coming from a parent to like feel safe enough, to like set your daughter up with someone. And of course, I mean, if you look at the movie, I really am channeling like just the most inoffensive, kind, sweet young man kind of character. I'm not saying I was that. I'm saying that's the character that I played. But, it was just, it was really sweet. So he was great. His family was great. I did eventually meet Barbie. She's great too. She's definitely kind of a tough chick, like her dad, and or she was back then. And Dick was just a great actor. He had tremendous chops. He was very funny. In Gremlins 2, the scene where he comes over, he and Jackie Joseph come over, and they surprise us at the house, and he has to do the thing where he's getting paranoid about the Gremlins. She's like, Mary, she's like, Mary still thinks he kind of hears those, and he's like, no, I'm fine. What was that? And he gets all, I'm telling you, if you watch Gremlins 2, you'll see that Phoebe and I are losing it and laughing so hard at some of the stuff that Dick is improving. They never got a take where she and I aren't laughing. They had to go with a take where we're sort of cracking up, and it kind of works. But if you know the truth of the matter, Phoebe and I always at the screening we were sort of embarrassed that we couldn't calm ourselves down and stop cracking up and be professional enough to get an actual take. But yeah, Dick is a tremendous actor, and I loved working with him, and he brought so much to the Futterman character. It really was pretty amazing. So I think my time is up. I'm seeing a whole bunch of zeros there. So
Yeah, we
thanks
are
for the
out of
question,
time.
and thanks for coming and supporting me. And we'll see what happens a couple of years from now. See what the response will be like when we get a real G3 in the theater.
Thank you so much